Hey YNR fans! Welcome to YNR Trends, your young and the restless updates, shocking spoilers, and all the drama. So grab your coffee, hit that subscribe button, and let's dive right into Genoa City's hottest gossip. Audra had never been one to hold her tongue, but this time, it wasn't just sharp words that left her lips, it was the sting of her hand. The sound echoed through the Abbott living room as Claire staggered back, her cheek blazing red from the slap Audra delivered. Everyone froze. Kyle's eyes went wide, his breath caught somewhere in his chest, and even Jack, who had walked into the room moments before, could only mutter a stunned, "What the hell is going on here?" Claire's hand instinctively went to her face, her lips trembling as if she wanted to protest but couldn't find the words. Audra, on the other hand, looked anything but apologetic. Her voice was tight, low, and dangerous, as she hissed through clenched teeth, "You've been lying to all of us. And it's time the truth finally came out." Kyle moved quickly, stepping between the two women as if his instinct to protect was automatic, though even he wasn't sure who needed protection more. He glanced back at Claire, who looked shaken, tears welling in her eyes, then back at Audra, whose fury burned like wildfire. "What are you talking about?" Kyle demanded, his voice trembling with a mix of anger and fear. "What secret? What did she lie about?" Audra's lips curled into something between a smirk and a snarl. "Oh, Kyle," she said, her tone dripping with bitter amusement, "you really don't know, do you? You've been so wrapped up in playing savior, you didn't bother to question why Claire has been so interested in you, or in the baby." The room went silent. The words hung in the air heavier than stone, pressing down on everyone like the ceiling might collapse. Claire shook her head violently, her blonde hair whipping around her face as tears spilled over. "No, that's not true," she cried, her voice cracking under the weight of panic. "Audra, stop it! You don't know what you're talking about." But Audra wasn't backing down. She turned sharply to Kyle, her eyes locking onto his like a predator cornering prey. "She's been keeping this from you for months. And you deserve to know the truth. You deserve to know whose child that baby really is." Kyle's heart stopped. His ears buzzed, drowning out the rest of the world. A baby. The baby. For weeks, whispers had floated around Genoa City, fragments of gossip about who might be pregnant, who might be hiding something, but Kyle had dismissed them all as background noise in the chaos of his family's drama. But now, hearing Audra say it outright, watching Claire's reaction, seeing the guilt and fear plastered across her face, it all began to feel terrifyingly real. He took a shaky step back, his hands trembling. "Claire, is she telling the truth? Is there a baby?" His voice was little more than a whisper, fragile and desperate. Claire's chest rose and fell rapidly as she fought for air, her hands clutched together as though she were praying for the earth to open and swallow her whole. "Kyle. I was going to tell you," she finally admitted, her voice broken. "I swear I was. I didn't know how." Her confession sent Kyle stumbling another step backward, his head spinning, his stomach churning with betrayal and confusion. "Oh my God," he muttered, raking his hands through his hair. "There is a baby." His words weren't a question anymore. They were a devastating realization. Audra crossed her arms, satisfied but still fuming. "Now the only question left," she said sharply, "is who the father really is." Jack, who had remained silent until now, finally found his voice, though it came out hoarse. "Claire, tell us. Is it Kyle's child?" He wanted to sound steady, but the tremor in his words betrayed his own unease. The Abbotts had endured countless scandals, betrayals, and devastating secrets, but this was something else entirely. Claire shook her head helplessly, sobbing as she sank onto the nearest chair. "I don't know how to say this," she whispered. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I didn't plan it. I never meant for it to come out this way." Kyle's patience snapped. He stepped forward, his voice sharp and laced with desperation. Claire! Just tell me, am I the father or not? Audra laughed bitterly, though there was no humor in her tone. You really think it's that simple, Kyle? You think she's going to sit here and give you a clean, easy answer? You don't know the half of it. She turned her piercing gaze back to Claire, who was trembling, caught like a deer in headlights. Go ahead. Tell him who you were with before you came running into his arms. Tell him about the other man. Tell him about the night you thought no one would find out. Claire buried her face in her hands, shaking her head. Please, stop, she begged. I can't do this. Not like this. Kyle's voice broke, raw with betrayal. Then when, Claire? When were you planning on telling me? After the baby was born? After I signed my life away thinking it was mine, only to find out I'd been living a lie? His voice cracked, and his anger dissolved into heartbreak. He turned away, his eyes glistening as he struggled to breathe. The silence was unbearable, the kind that presses on the chest until it hurts. Finally, Claire lifted her head, her tear-streaked face pale as a ghost. Her voice was so soft, it was almost lost in the heavy air. I don't know who the father is. The room exploded. Jack gasped audibly, his hand covering his mouth in disbelief. Kyle's knees nearly buckled, and Audra scoffed, shaking her head with a cold smile. Unbelievable, Audra muttered. You've been stringing him along this whole time, letting him believe he had a future with you, letting him think you were building something real, when all along you were carrying a secret that could blow his entire life apart. Claire sobbed harder, reaching toward Kyle, but he recoiled like her touch was fire. Please, she pleaded, please just let me explain. I was scared. I didn't want to lose you. I thought if I could just figure it out before anyone knew. But Kyle wasn't listening anymore. His mind was a hurricane, flashes of memories swirling, moments with Claire, promises whispered late at night, the way she'd touched her stomach when she thought no one was looking. He felt sick. He felt betrayed. And above all, he felt shattered. You should have trusted me, he whispered, his voice hollow. You should have told me the truth from the start. Claire's tears fell like rain, each one heavier than the last. I love you, Kyle, she cried, her voice raw with desperation. That's the truth. That's the only truth I know. Audra rolled her eyes, though even she seemed to soften for a fleeting moment, seeing the pain radiating from Kyle's face. Love doesn't erase lies, she said firmly. And it doesn't change the fact that someone here is about to get their world ripped apart when the truth about that baby finally comes out. Jack finally stepped in, his voice stern but trembling with his own unease. Enough. This isn't the place for finger-pointing or fighting. What matters now is finding out the truth. Claire, if there's even a chance Kyle could be the father, then we need answers. And we need them now. Claire nodded weakly, wiping her tears with shaking hands. I'll take a test, she whispered. I'll do whatever it takes. I never wanted it to happen like this. Kyle turned away, his body tense, his jaw clenched as he fought back tears he didn't want anyone to see. It's already happened, he said, his voice breaking. And nothing is ever going to be the same again. The world of Genoa City is one built upon a foundation of secrets, a precarious architecture of hidden paternities, buried betrayals, and long-concealed sins that inevitably crack under the pressure of time and ambition. It is within this volatile ecosystem that the lives of Audra Charles, Claire Grace, and Kyle Abbott have become inextricably intertwined, a tangled web of desire, resentment, and shared history that was destined to erupt. The specific incident, a moment of violent catharsis where Audra's open palm meets Claire's cheek, is not merely a dramatic spectacle but the detonation of a carefully laid explosive, the trigger for a revelation that threatens to unravel carefully constructed identities and reshape the power dynamics within the Abbott family for years to come. The secret she reveals, a truth so shocking it leaves Kyle reeling, is the answer to a question that has lingered like a ghost in the room, the true parentage of the child known as Harrison Abbott. This revelation is far more than a simple plot twist. It is a seismic event that forces a re-examination of the past, a brutal confrontation with the present, and a terrifying uncertainty about the future for all involved. To fully comprehend the gravity of this moment, one must first understand the intricate and deeply flawed individuals at its center. Audra Charles is a figure sculpted by ambition and survival. She arrived in Genoa City not with the inherited privilege of an Abbott or a Newman, but with a sharp mind, a ruthless determination, and an understanding that in a world of predators, one must either become the hunter or be consumed. Her relationship with Kyle has been a complex dance of genuine connection and strategic maneuvering. She saw in him not just a handsome scion of a powerful family, but a pathway to legitimacy, stability, and a power that she could not attain on her own. Her love for him, however real it may have been, was always intertwined with a calculated assessment of what their union could provide. The existence of Harrison, Kyle's son with Summer Newman, was always a complicating factor, a tether to a past relationship and a constant reminder of the family obligations that could supersede his commitment to her. Audra's desire to have a child with Kyle was, on one level, a natural progression of their relationship, but on another, a deeper, more primal need to secure her position, to create an unbreakable bond that would finally anchor him to her side and guarantee her a permanent place within the Abbott dynasty. Conversely, Claire Grace entered the scene as a seemingly benign, almost ethereal presence, which made her subsequent reveal as a manipulated pawn in a grand scheme against the Newmans all the more shocking. Her past is checkered with trauma, manipulation, and a desperate yearning for belonging, making her both a victim and a volatile actor in her own right. Her connection to the Abbott family, particularly through her great-aunt, the formidable Mamie Johnson, provided her with an entry point into this world of wealth and influence. Her interactions with Kyle have been layered with a strange complexity, a mixture of shared loneliness and an unspoken understanding that sometimes feels like it transcends their present circumstances. There has always been an unspoken curiosity between them, a magnetic pull that neither could fully explain, hinting at a deeper, hidden connection that neither was aware of. Claire represents a wild card, a character whose allegiances are fluid and whose actions are often driven by a deep-seated emotional need rather than cold calculation, making her both vulnerable and dangerously unpredictable. Kyle Abbott stands as the nexus of this brewing storm. The heir to Jabot Cosmetics, he is a man perpetually caught between the weight of his family's legacy and his own desire for autonomy and happiness. His life has been a series of battles, for control of his family's company, for the love of Summer, and for the right to be a father to his son, Harrison. The custody battle for Harrison was one of the defining struggles of his life, a painful, drawn-out conflict that pitted him against Summer and her powerful Newman allies. Winning shared custody was a hard-fought victory, one that cemented his identity as a father above all else. Harrison is not just his son, he is Kyle's greatest accomplishment in the realm of personal responsibility, a symbol of his fight and his love. His relationship with Audra offered him a chance to move beyond the perpetual conflict with Summer, to build a new life unencumbered by the past. Yet, the shadow of that past, in the form of his child, always remained. Kyle's entire sense of self is profoundly tied to his role as Harrison's father, making him uniquely vulnerable to any threat to that reality. The confrontation itself is a masterpiece of pent-up frustration and strategic vengeance. The slap is not an impulsive act of anger but a calculated punctuation mark to a truth Audra can no longer contain. It is the physical manifestation of months, perhaps years, of simmering resentment, of playing second fiddle to a child from a previous relationship, of watching her own dreams of motherhood with Kyle be delayed or dismissed. In that moment, her rage is multifaceted. It is directed at Claire for her perceived manipulation and her hidden connection to Kyle's life, but it is also directed at Kyle himself, for his blindness, for his prioritization of a past she believes is built on a lie, and for the power he holds over her future that she is about to shatter. The slap is her way of seizing control, of ensuring that everyone in the room is as wounded and off balance as she is before she delivers the killing blow of her revelation. The secret she reveals is the ultimate weapon, a truth so devastating it has the power to obliterate Kyle's world. The question "who is the baby?" is answered not with a name, but with a biological fact that rewrites history. Kyle Abbott is not Harrison's biological father. The paternity of the child he has fought for, loved, and built his identity around is false. This revelation is the key that unlocks a Pandora's box of implications. The immediate shock is paralyzing. For Kyle, it is an existential crisis. Every memory, every struggle, every moment of love and pride associated with Harrison is suddenly cast in a new, dubious light. The foundation of his life for the past several years crumbles into dust in an instant. The man who defined himself by his fatherhood is suddenly not a father in the most fundamental biological sense. The agony of this is compounded by the public nature of the custody battle. His victory, his righteous struggle, is now rendered a farce, a fight over a child that was never his to claim in that way. The humiliation is as profound as the heartbreak. But the revelation is only the first wave of the tsunami. The immediate and most pressing question that follows the shock is, if not Kyle, then who? The narrative inevitably points toward Adam Newman, Summer's former stepbrother and a man with a history of complex and often destructive entanglements with the Abbotts and Newmans. A paternity twist involving Adam is a classic trope of the genre, ripe with dramatic potential. It would mean that Harrison is a Newman by blood, a fact that would send shockwaves through both families. Victor Newman would suddenly have a new grandson, a new heir to consider in his vast empire. For Summer, it would be a nightmare scenario, a reminder of a dark and complicated period in her life and a brutal complication of her current marriage to Chance Chancellor. It would also create a horrific sibling-like bond between Harrison and Connor, Adam's son, further twisting the already knotted family tree. The implications for the Newman-Abbott feud are monumental, turning a custody battle between two families into an internal war within the Newman dynasty itself, with the Abbotts' prized grandson at the center of it. However, the true genius of the revelation, and perhaps the deeper layer that Audra so viciously exposes, lies in Claire's connection to it all. Audra's slap and her proclamation are aimed at Claire for a reason. It is not just about hurting Kyle, it is about exposing Claire's role in this hidden history. The most shocking twist, the one that truly shocks Kyle, would be that Claire is in some way connected to this original paternity secret. Perhaps she knew all along, having discovered the truth through her great-aunt Mamie, who has her own long and complicated history with the Abbott family and its secrets. Maybe Claire's mother, who herself was entangled with the Newmans, was the one who helped conceal the truth. Or, in an even more devastating turn, perhaps Claire is Harrison's biological mother. This seems less likely given the timeline, but in the world of soap operas, nothing is impossible. A more plausible connection is that Claire, in her previous role as a pawn for Jordan, uncovered this secret as part of her research into damaging the Newman family and has been holding on to it, waiting for the right moment to use it. Audra, in her relentless pursuit of information and power, may have discovered that Claire possesses this knowledge, and her attack is a preemptive strike, exposing Claire's secret keeping to Kyle before Claire can use the information herself. This makes the slap not just an act of anger, but a strategic move in a larger game, ensuring that Kyle sees Claire not as a victim or a potential ally, but as yet another deceiver in his life. The aftermath of this revelation is a landscape of devastation and opportunity. For Kyle, the journey is one of profound identity reconstruction. He must grapple with a fundamental question: what makes a father? Is it biology? Or is it the love, care, and sacrifice he has poured into Harrison since his birth? While the emotional bond may remain, the legal and personal foundations of his life are shattered. His relationship with his own father, Jack Abbott, will be tested, as Jack may have had his own suspicions or may become Kyle's sole source of stability. His relationship with Summer will be irrevocably altered, shifting from co-parents bound by a shared child to two people connected by a lie, forced to navigate a new, uncertain reality. The rage and betrayal he will feel toward her for keeping this secret, if she knew, will be immense. For Audra, the consequences are equally complex. She may have achieved her goal of severing Kyle's intense emotional tether to his past with Summer, but she has done so by destroying the man she supposedly loves. In breaking Kyle, she may have also broken any chance of a future with him. His trust in her is also shattered, as she chose to wield this truth as a weapon in a moment of anger rather than as a painful confession in private. She has revealed herself to be capable of ultimate ruthlessness, and Kyle may never be able to look at her the same way again. However, she has also cleared the board. With the obstacle of Harrison's paternity removed from their relationship, at least in the biological sense, she may believe she can now build something new with Kyle, unburdened by the past. It is a gargantuan gamble, one that could either finally secure her place by his side or exile her from his life forever. For Claire, the exposure marks a critical turning point. She is thrust from the periphery into the very center of the storm. If she was indeed holding the secret, her credibility and any nascent trust she built with Kyle or the Abbotts is annihilated. She is now confirmed in everyone's eyes as a manipulator, a keeper of destructive secrets. This could isolate her further, pushing her back toward the darker tendencies she has tried to escape. Alternatively, it could force her to finally choose a side, to explain herself, and to use the chaos as an opportunity to redefine her place in Genoa City, perhaps even aligning with Kyle as a fellow victim of a cruel and hidden truth. In the end, the moment Audra's hand strikes Claire's face and the secret is unleashed into the world is a quintessential example of the soap opera genre operating at its most potent. It is not merely a shock for shock's sake. It is a narrative catalyst of the highest order, a point of no return that deconstructs the core identity of a central character and forces every character in its orbit to confront uncomfortable truths about the past and make impossible choices about the future. The question of who is the baby is answered, but it gives birth to 100 more questions about love, family, identity, and the brutal lengths people will go to secure their own version of happiness. The fallout will be measured not in days or weeks, but in years of storylines, forever altering the legacy of the Abbott family and proving once again that in Genoa City, the past is never truly past, it is merely waiting for the right moment to resurface and rewrite the present.